Gamers often describe Borderlands in a very interesting way. Since the original first release back in 2009, every entry within this series has been labelled with a rather odd title, I think, which is that it's a Borderlands game. We see this labelling in other series as well. It isn't just a Borderlands series that undergoes this rather sad victimization, such as the Dark Souls series, the Arkham series, and basically every Nintendo game ever made, which is a fair critique in my opinion. The battle I'll be fighting today is against this label for Borderlands, and that's mainly because people use it in a negative context, I find, and I actually think it's a bit out of place for a comment on a game, and I'll explain why. Borderlands did, if you can remember, begin our craze for the looter shooter. I knew from the first time I saw the trailer for Borderlands that it was a formula that I wanted to play. I mean, FPS mechanics with RPG progression, like, let's go! The concept of Borderlands screams satisfaction. It's no wonder then that the game started a sort of cult following with all the cosplayers and fanatics about the game and the characters, and it did carve out a little piece of mainstream gaming for itself, and rightfully so. Here's my problem with people's description of Borderlands. Borderlands 3 is often described as, in the reviews, a Borderlands game. What do people mean when they actually say that? Because as far as I can tell, they mean to limit the game by stating that it exists within its own little genre and that it doesn't do anything particularly outstanding outside of this genre. To which I reply, especially in the instance of Borderlands 2, that is ridiculous. I do think that part of this description is to best describe the Borderlands game as quickly as possible, and that there is a sense of urgency in trying to explain and summarise to people exactly what the game is, which I can understand. But saying that Borderlands participates in its own genre rather than competing in others, though it does naturally exist in lots of others, including FPSs, RPGs, action games, I suppose, but it's not typically used in the complimentary way, I find. Instead, it is used as a negative label, as I've said, and it attempts to describe Borderlands in a very bipolar way in terms of its Marmite. You either love it or you don't, because it's a Borderlands game, and I do find this whole labelling process quite strange. It would be like The Last of Us Part 2 arriving next May, and the main label being, it's a Last of Us game. I mean, in short, I'm interpreting that as meaning it's a third-person, story-focused, single-player experience by Naughty Dog that will probably blow your socks off. We already know that. We don't need it stated just to remind us that the game does indeed play with the same mechanics as the last game in the franchise. I feel like it's a very obvious statement to make that claim, and I don't find it adds anything particular to the reviews in question. That being said, suppose we look at Gears 5 then, as an example of a game which is a Gears game. I mean, a lot of it is a Gears game, it's got fantastic campaign, story, third person, cover-based action shooter stuff, but it is also not a Gears game in terms of looking at the franchise historically. It has new mechanics that we've never seen before, i.e. the open world sections in Act 2 and 3. Despite this change, however, it doesn't lose its identity as a Gears game just because it makes this addition to the main formula. And while we're on the topic of Gears 5, the main label wasn't "It's a Gears game" on the reviews, even though it very much is a Gears game to a fair degree in the usage of what the reviewers are trying to say. Now, we can now go back to Borderlands 2 of my example of why this is a label that I do believe is redundant. Borderlands 1 main/best features are the shooting, the looting, the art style, the characters, the OCD completion aspect, and the replayability. Borderlands 2 has all of this, but also makes the characters even more developed, and there's twice as many of them. Gearbox wrote the dialogue in a much more sophisticated way, funnier way, the shooting's improved, and the characters are better and more attractable in terms of, I love most of the characters, and that is due to the writing, probably. For what it's worth as well, the game is also twice as long as the original Borderlands, if not longer. It's such a big game, it's unbelievable. I remember playing the game, and by the end of it, I was basically looking like Gandalf. Borderlands 2 is an example of Borderlands excelling in not what it's known for, particularly, though you can now argue that it is because of the demonstration of excellence with the characters, but still fulfilling the Borderlands formula to a reliable and fulfilling degree. In that respect, Borderlands 2 isn't just a Borderlands game because it excels at these features that Borderlands 1 wasn't particularly appreciated for, loved for. Even though obviously a lot of us like the characters in Borderlands 1, Borderlands 1 wasn't particularly known for its story, I'd say. It was known more for the gameplay. And Borderlands 2, in my opinion, changed that. In that respect, Borderlands 2 isn't just a Borderlands game. So I think we should perhaps stop using this term in such a negative way towards Borderlands, because I could easily do it for your favourite franchise. For example, Forza Horizon 4 is a Forza Horizon game. Easy. Detroit Become Human is a Quantic Dream game. Simple. Fallout 4 is a Bethesda game. Told ya. And Horizon Zero Dawn is a Guerrilla Studios game. Oh wait, what?